In this lesson, you're going to learn to solve similar figures. Recall the properties of similar figures is that their corresponding angles will be congruent and their corresponding sides will be proportional. In this first example, we are given that triangle ABC is similar to XYZ. We are going to list all of the corresponding angles that are congruent and the corresponding sides that are proportional. Use the similarity statement to help you know the corresponding angles and sides. ABC, so that 1, 2, 3, corresponds to XYZ, so 1, 2, 3. Label them in this way if you need. So just like in the similarity statement, A corresponds to X. So angle A is going to be congruent to angle X. Also, angle B is congruent to angle Y. Again, looking at our similarity statement, B corresponds to Y. And finally, angle C is going to be congruent to angle Z. Those corresponding angles are going to be congruent in our similar figures. Also, the corresponding sides are going to be proportional. So pick any side in the first triangle. I start with AB. So that's the first, second letter. It's going to correspond to the first and second letter in the next figure, so XY. That ratio is going to equal the ratio of the next pair of sides. So BC with YZ. So BC corresponds with YZ. Again, using that similarity statement to know what corresponds. Triangles have 3 sides, so we're going to have 3 proportions. The corresponding sides are going to be proportional, and you'll have a pair of sides for each side of the figure. So finally, that means we have AC corresponds to XZ. Let's look at example number 2. Given that GH is parallel to DJ, so here's our parallel symbol, GH is parallel to DJ, well, having a pair of parallel sides gives us some other information. We have corresponding angles, so this angle D corresponds to G, also H corresponds to J, and that gives us some congruent angles. You should also know that angle F is going to be congruent to itself. That's the reflexive property. So we do have those congruent angles to be able to say we have similar triangles. So we can say that FGH, the smaller triangle FGH, is similar to FDJ. And we can say that based on these parallel lines. The parallel lines gives us congruent angles. This angle is congruent to this angle. Also, this angle is congruent to this angle. And we only need 2 pairs of congruent angles to say that we have similar triangles. If it helps, draw the smaller triangle off to the side so you can list all the corresponding sides and angles. The corresponding angles will be congruent. So F, of course, is going to be congruent to itself. That's the reflexive property. G is going to be congruent to D, like we mentioned with the parallel lines. Those are corresponding angles. And finally, H is going to be congruent to J. The corresponding sides are going to be proportional. So start with any pair of sides. DF with GF. So we can see that in our similarity statement that DF, so the second and first, correspond with GF, the second and first. And that's going to equal the ratio of FJ to FH. So again, using that similarity statement, FJ 1, 3, FH also the 1, 3. And then finally, because we have three sides, we have DJ corresponds to GH. Those corresponding sides are going to be proportional. Now for example number 3. Given that angle L is congruent to angle A and angle E is congruent to angle R, that is enough to say these are similar triangles because we can prove by angle. So one pair of corresponding angles was already given, L with A. The other pair of let's go ahead and write our similarity statement. Because of angle L corresponds to angle A, our similarity statement will also correspond in that way. So triangle L, we'll name the rest of that, but the L corresponds to A in the other triangle. So we'll name our triangles based on their angles. The other pair of corresponding angles that was given, E is congruent to R, so then that means we can also line that up in our similarity statement. E goes with R. So finally, that means we need to look at our picture and see what letters we have not used. We've used the L and the E, so that leaves us G in the first triangle, and that will have to line up with, since we've already used A and R, that will have to line up with M because we've not used that letter. So G is congruent with M. Of course, that finishes off our similarity statement also. Triangle LEG is going to be similar to triangle ARM. Of course, if you need to number your letters in your similarity statements to help you with the corresponding sides, pick any pair of sides. LE corresponds with AR. So LE is the first two letters, AR is the first two letters. EG corresponds with RM. And then finally, LG corresponds with AM. So the corresponding angles are congruent and corresponding sides are proportional. Let's look now at example number 4. We're given that triangle BAC is similar to triangle EDF. We're asked to find CB. Well, CB is unknown, so I'm going to let it stand for X. Just put in an X. I like to start with the unknown when setting up my ratios to solve a proportion. So number your similarity statements. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, so you can line up with what corresponds. So X is going to correspond with the 10.2 because CB, using our similarity statement, CB corresponds to FE. C and B were the 3 and 1, so we got to find the 3 and 1 in our similarity statement for the other triangle. Pick another pair of corresponding sides. We don't know CA, so we're not going to use that side, but we do know AB. So that 7.5 is going to correspond to the 15. Even in our similarity statements, AB, so 2, 1, corresponds with DE, which is also the 2, 1. Now that we have this proportion, we can solve. Cross multiply, so we get 15x equals 76.5. We get 15x by multiplying 15 times x. We get 76.5 by multiplying 10.2 times 7.5. Solve the equation. This is being multiplied, so we will need to divide by 15. That gives us x equals 5.1. It does say round to the nearest tenth if necessary, but this came out exactly 5.1. Let's look at example number 5. We have that triangle CAB is similar to triangle CED. We're asked to find DE. So let's go ahead and put in our variable x. Well, notice in our similarity statements, DE, so D is the third one, E is the second one. So DE is going to correspond to BA. Looking at our picture, BA is 5.2. So that's going to be our first ratio of our proportion. X corresponds to the 5.2. Well, now notice we have several numbers to select from. It doesn't matter which ones you pick, but once you pick your first one, you have to choose the corresponding side. So let's say, for example, we pick CD. CD is the 1, 3. So over here, we would have to correspond with CB, which is this side here, 3.5. You could have even chosen the CE side. So if you choose that, you'll have to pick the corresponding side. Also use common sense. Notice in this right triangle, 5.6 is the shorter side of the triangle when you compare it to 6.4. So you're going to come over here and compare it with the shorter side of this triangle. So use common sense too, that long sides will go with long sides and short sides will go with short sides. But always using the similarity statement will help you get those corresponding sides. I chose the CD with CB, the 5.6 with the 3.5. So we cross multiply to solve. 3.5 times x and 5.2 times 5.6. So we get 3.5x equals 29.12, and then solve by dividing by 3.5. Here we are going to need to round to the nearest tenths. Our answer is 8.32, but the nearest tenths is one decimal place. This 2 behind tells us just to leave it alone, 8.3. We will not round up. It just stays the same. So our answer for DE is 8.3. Let's look at example number 6. Here we have a four-sided figure that corresponds, or that is similar to another four-sided figure. So ABCD is similar to QRST, and we're asked to find ST. So again, noticing in our similarity statement, ST is the 3, 4. It's going to correspond to CD. So C to D is that 91. So X corresponds to 91. And then pick any other side. I'm going to stick with the smallest side, this 3. So QT, the 1, 4, is going to correspond to the AD, that 21. You could have picked any corresponding pairs of sides. You could have used the 4 or 12, but once you choose those numbers, you have to pick the number that it corresponds with. So we will solve this equation now. Cross multiply to solve the proportion. We get 21x equals 273 because x times 21 is 21x. 91 times 3 is 273. You'll divide to solve for x and find that x equals 13. So keep in mind when solving similar figures that the angles are going to be congruent and the sides are going to be proportional. And always use that similarity statement to help you get your corresponding sides and angles lined up.